What if I told you that one of the biggest contributors to your anxiety isn't your workload? It isn't your marriage. It isn't your inbox. It isn't your hormones. It isn't your boss. It isn't social media, but the way you've been breathing for years. Now, before you click away, hear me out because this might be one of the most important conversations I've ever had on this channel. Most people believe anxiety changes their breathing, and that's true, but very few people realize the opposite is also true. Your breathing can create the very sensations your brain interprets as anxiety. Think about that. You could be intentionally rehearsing stress thousands of times a day without realizing it. And if that's true, then no amount of positive thinking, productivity hacks, or self help strategies will fully solve the problem because you're trying to calm a nervous system while continuously feeding signals that something is wrong. Today, I want to show you your breathing and how and why your breathing may keep you anxious, the neuroscience behind it, of course, and the physiology behind it, and what you can start doing immediately to change it. Because once you understand this, you will never think about breathing the same way again. I am sure. So, here's my opinion. Most people have spent years trying to manage anxiety without ever examining the breathing pattern beneath it. And that's like trying to stop a fire alarm while ignoring the smoke detector. We're constantly addressing symptoms, rarely addressing the signal. And none of us, or at least one of the most overlooked signals in modern life, is this chronic overbreathing. Not heavy breathing, not obvious breathing, overbreathing, subtle, invisible, constant. Now I know what you're thinking. Rita, how can you be breathing too much? How can that is that even possible? And also, how is that even a problem? Because we've been taught that more oxygen is always better, right? Take a deep breath, take a bigger breath, breathe more, fill your lungs, but the body is far more sophisticated than that, my friends. And here's where things get a little fascinating, at least for me. Most people believe oxygen is the star of the show, but carbon dioxide is usually one of the most misunderstood players in human physiology and doesn't get all the attention that it deserves. Carbon dioxide is not simply a waste gas. It's a regulator, a messenger, a balancing mechanism. Your body needs a healthy amount of carbon dioxide to efficiently deliver oxygen into tissues and cells. It is known as the Bohr effect, and we've known this back in the 60s. The accumulation of carbon dioxide is what triggers your red blood cells to release oxygen. So when you chronically overbreathe, you exhale too much carbon dioxide, and suddenly the system becomes less efficient. This is one of the reasons some people can breathe more and yet feel worse. Imagine a delivery truck, okay, loaded with oxygen. Carbon dioxide helps to unload that oxygen where it's needed. Without adequate carbon dioxide, the truck keeps driving. The oxygen stays on board, and your tissues receive less of what they need, which means you can be breathing plenty of oxygen, yet still experience symptoms like fatigue, brain fog, tension, and anxiety. This is one of the great physiological paradoxes most people never hear about. And it baffled me when I first found out about it. Now I'm always talking about it. So let's talk about high performing women for a moment. The executive, the entrepreneur, the leader, the caregiver, the woman holding everything together. What happens when she spends years rushing, years multitasking, anticipating problems, responding to notifications, carrying this invisible pressure? Her breathing adapts without even her realizing it. The breath becomes faster, higher, shallower, more chest dominant, less diaphragmatic, more frequent, more effortful, more, and eventually the body accepts it as normal because it's this pattern that you've created. And even though it's normal, it's not optimal. This is why so many women tell me, I'm anxious all the time and I don't know why. The anxiety feels emotional, but the body is contributing to the experience because your brain is constantly gathering information from your physiology, heart rate, muscle tension, breathing rate, carbon dioxide levels, internal sensations. Then it creates a story. If the body feels unsafe, the brain often follows. Let's talk about something called interoception. Interoception is your brain's ability to interpret what's happening inside your body. Your nervous system is continuously asking, what's happening in here? Am I safe? Am I okay? Do I need to prepare for something? When breathing becomes erratic, the brain perceives signals that something may be wrong, not because danger exists, but because the body is behaving as if danger exists. And eventually, your threat detection system becomes more sensitive. So, because this just doesn't affect anxiety, it affects your leadership, your focus, your sleep, your energy, your decision making, your emotional regulation, your relationships. When you're chronically overbreathing, your body can become trapped in a cycle of physiological vigilance. You become more reactive, more easily overwhelmed, more emotionally exhausted, more mentally scattered. And over time, you start believing this is your personality. I'm just an anxious person, people say, right? Maybe, or maybe you've simply been practicing an anxious breathing pattern for years. I remember working with a client who described herself as high strung. She had accepted it as part of her identity. Oh, I'm just wired this way, she would say often. After several weeks of breathing, retraining, something fascinating happened. She didn't become a different person. She became more herself, more patient, more present, more focused, more emotionally stable. Not because we changed her personality, we changed her physiology. And physiology influences psychology far more than most people realize. Now, here's something even more surprising. Many people accidentally make anxiety worse by triggering to take bigger breaths. How many times have you heard that, right? How many times have you been told, take a deep breath? Sounds harmless, but for some anxious individuals, huge breaths can actually reinforce that overbreathing pattern. The goal isn't bigger breathing, the goal is more efficient breathing. It's actually calmer breathing, quieter breathing, less effortful breathing, more functional breathing. Think about elite athletes here for a moment. Think about snipers. Think about experienced meditators. Think about military operators. When precision matters, breathing becomes quieter, not bigger, controlled, efficient, deliberate. The nervous system interprets efficiency differently than intensity. Now, let's talk about what actually helps. The first step is awareness. Pay attention throughout the day. Are you breathing through your mouth? Are your shoulders rising? Are you sighing frequently or yawning constantly? Holding your breath while checking your emails? It's actually known as email apnea. Crazy phenomena, modern day phenomena. Are you breathing loudly? These are all often cues. The body is always communicating with us. Second, start practicing nasal breathing whenever possible. Your nose is not just decoration, it's part of your respiratory system. It filters, humidifies, warms, regulates airflow, supports nitric oxide production, which is an antiviral, antibacterial, and a vasodilating molecule. Helps slow breathing naturally. Your nose is one of the most underutilized tools for nervous system regulation. Third, train your tolerance to stillness. Because many people discover something uncomfortable when the body becomes quiet, the mind becomes louder. This is why people often avoid slowing down. Not because stillness is dangerous, because stillness reveals what busyness was hiding. And that's where healing begins. Let's do a simple practice together, not a deep breathing exercise, not a performance exercise, a regulation exercise. Allow your lips to gently close, breathing softly through your nose, inhaling gently for 2, 3, 4, exhaling for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In 2, 3, 4, out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In 2, 3, 4, out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Continue on your own. No force, no effort, no giant breath. Inhaling softly through the nose and then exhaling softly through the nose. Imagine your breathing becoming quieter, smoother, smaller, more relaxed. Let's do one more round and notice what changed. Notice what, because of how you breathed, you're actually breathing more. Because you are utilizing this beautiful instrument that is made for breathing. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the nose as much as possible throughout the day. Letting go of the breath, come back to your natural rhythm. And here's your challenge. For the next 7 days, several times a day, ask yourself, am I breathing for this moment? Or am I breathing for an emergency that doesn't even exist? That question alone can create extraordinary awareness, because the truth is, many women spend years trying to solve anxiety exclusively through the mind. But anxiety is not only psychological, it's physiological. And one of the fastest ways to influence physiology is through your breathing. Well, nose breathing, not mouth breathing, is through the nose breathing. Not dramatic breathing, not complicated breathing, not perfect breathing, functional breathing, efficient breathing, intentional breathing, because the goal isn't simply to feel calmer. The goal is to create a nervous system that no longer mistakes everyday life for an emergency. And that begins one breath at a time. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments. Did you notice any of these breathing patterns in yourself? And if you know someone who was constantly feeling anxious despite doing all of the right things, share this video with them, because the answer may be closer than you think. Quiet, quite literally, under their nose. And until next time, remember, your breath is not just keeping you alive, it's teaching your nervous system how to live. And it's also one of the fastest way to help you change your state. Until next time, your breathwork barista signing off. Ciao for now.